Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the AFC Newsday channel. Forgive us for a bit of a different kind of content we had recently. I know Matt was holding down the fort last week and I wasn't around, unfortunately, but it's great to be back on the AFC Newsday channel. And Matty beside me, mate, you're looking happy as ever, even after that just slightly depressing game at Fulham at the weekend. How are you, mate? You doing well?
Yeah, very well, thank you, mate. How about yourself?
Yeah, mate, I'm good, thanks. Just before we do have a bit of a special guest coming on, a bit of a special guest. We've got a special guest coming on the show today. Our second guest ever. We'll introduce them in a second. But Matt, I did just want to firstly get your reaction and thoughts to the Fulham game because you were there. You got a ticket last minute, didn't you?
Yep.
Talk to me. How was it? What was the experience like? Good atmosphere? Where were you sat? And just how was the game in general?
So I was sat in Block 9, which is Lower North Bank for anyone who doesn't know. And atmosphere, to be honest, when we conceded early, especially, I mean, it was pretty flat until we started sustaining pressure, particularly in the second half. It was a lot better. When we got that goal, of course, it was great. The second goal we scored was phenomenal in terms of fan reaction and everything. But yeah, it was okay. I think generally speaking, when we were winning or when we were playing better or sustaining pressure, there was far more of a fan reaction. But I guess that is somewhat to be expected.
Sure, yeah, no, a frustrating game, and one that Fulham fans loved it, didn't they? The last minute equaliser, it was just I was sat there just really tearing my hair out, just like, oh my word, this is so frustrating to watch. But either way, we move on. Some big games coming up. And, to talk about these big games and some specific transfer topics that have been coming about today, which I think is important to discuss, I thought, Matt, let's invite on our second guest since the debut of the channel. And I'm delighted to say that Ben Browning joins us. Third guest, sorry. Yes,
Hello,
Ben, you're
guys.
the third guest.
Third?
Ben, welcome.
Oh, being relegated already. What's happened there?
Ben, mate, it's great to have you. How are you?
Yeah, not all bad. I mean, still reeling a bit from Fulham, but otherwise, all good to this end. What about you boys?
Pretty good, thank you. Pretty good.
We're
Other
good,
than
mate.
obviously irritating game, as you say, but it is what it is. We go on and we move on.
It is. Ben, talk to us. What are you doing these days? Are you still writing for 101 Great Goals?
Yep,
Is that
still
your
at
main job
101. Looking
Nice.
forward to the transfer window ending.
Yeah.
Finally some peace and quiet. It's been a busy one for just about every Premier League club, and Saudi Arabia haven't really helped with that. So
Yeah.
I mean, they've done every other club a favour apart from us at the moment. So, a bit annoying. But yeah, still there. Still
Nice.
just plodding along.
What kind of Arsenal content are you doing at the moment, mate? Are you doing like a podcast and some fan-related content?
Yeah, we've got some fan-related stuff. We got the Bruised Banana FC podcast that we're doing at the moment, which you can check out on Twitter at Bruised Nana, I think it is. And yeah, we do sort of twice a week content, usually around the games. We've got a transfer special coming out this Thursday night, hopefully with a special guest. We had a guest on for Palace as well a couple of weeks ago, so it's all going well that end. And yeah, just getting through it and enjoying the start of the season, even though the results aren't going well. I'm enjoying the start of the season.
It's interesting. We'll talk about kind of where it's going wrong-ish a little bit later, but first of all, I wanted to talk about the topic which everyone's kind of gone into meltdown a little bit about this morning. That is, of course, about this man, Emile Smith-Rowe, who potentially has been linked by some outlets with a potential move to Chelsea, which would just absolutely blow my brain. Blow up my brain. I think, that kind of move, if Emile Smith-Rowe in a Chelsea shirt, would be a horrific thing to see. But Matt, I mean, this kind of news coming out, Emile Smith-Rowe's not featured so far this season. He's didn't feature towards the back end of last season. How would you feel if Emile Smith-Rowe moved on? And how would you feel if he was playing in the blue of Chelsea next season?
Pretty sick, to be fair.
The bad kind of sick.
Yeah, but I mean, on the player itself, I mean, him going to Chelsea would just be awful
Yeah.
in terms of, unless if obviously they offered crazy money, in which case you can't turn that down. But in a general sense, I mean, I love Emile. I'm sure a lot of other Arsenal fans do. I feel like, particularly him coming from the academy and coming through the ranks at Arsenal through Hale End, you almost want them to do even better for that reason, especially. And obviously, you see the likes of Bukayo Saka, Eddie Nketiah, Reece Nelson, and players will get moved on. I completely understand that. And particularly the way Arsenal are now, there will be more sales and there will be more squad changes, which you potentially wouldn't have expected in the past, which I completely get. But I think selling to Chelsea particularly would leave a very sour taste, unless if it's a astronomical fee. And
What's an astronomical fee? What's crazy money? What's you can't turn down money?
problem is, I don't really know the valuation per se, because this type of player is just not one you'd ever even consider really being for sale.
Yeah.
Almost like a Mount type scenario in that sense. Obviously, achieve way less or whatever. I'm not, comparing that before anyone goes with that. But I'd say if you got 80 to 90 million or something from Chelsea, then you can't turn that down. Like,
Yeah.
that's a lot. But it's a sour taste, really. And on the player itself, I mean, he was phenomenal for us when he first came into the team. He was the one who really sped track the development of the team and got us out of a really sticky area. Of course, you remember that famous game in December against Chelsea where
Yeah.
Emile came into the team, Martinelli started, Bukayo started, and it was a revelation that day. And, the assist against Newcastle, I remember, the goal against West Ham to double the lead. A lot of good memories, being our top scorer in a season, more or less. And, doing really well when the club was struggling. Fitness wise is pretty unfortunate, and he's not really recovered from after that one season where he was pretty fit. The season after that, couldn't really stay fit overly, which was unfortunate, and the same thing happened the season after. So a bit of a weird one. I'm a big fan of Emile, as I say, in a Hale End sense, in a position sense, like a very useful, versatile player and some very useful qualities, really. So it would be a pretty bitter one if he was to go, and particularly to Chelsea. But I guess the window's the window, and things do happen. But we'll have to see.
We will have to see indeed. Guys, anyone watching live or watching back, please leave a comment down below. Let us know what you think. Should Arsenal be selling Emile Smith-Rowe? We've had a comment already, someone saying that they're amazed Emile Smith-Rowe is up for sale. Still got time. Yeah, the window closes on Friday. But yeah, leave a comment. Should Arsenal even be considering selling a player like Emile Smith-Rowe? Ben, has he been given a chance since he came back from injury? Do you feel like he's been given enough of an opportunity to work his way back into the team?
I think he probably has in training. We don't obviously see the training. You might see it once a fortnight if you're with the media, but clearly something isn't working in training for him, because otherwise we wouldn't have gone and signed Kai Havertz. Fabio Vieira wouldn't be ahead of him. And I just sort of feel like while maybe not given a chance in the first 11, I mean, we can see that he hasn't had a minute yet this season.
Yeah,
it does feel a bit like his times at the Emirates is coming to an end, which is, as Matt says, it's really sad. It's really gutting as well, especially if he were to go to Chelsea. But I just think that he doesn't really have a position. I thought this last season, before we were linked to Kai Havertz, we were linked to Mason Mount.
Yeah,
and I sort of thought, I can see the comparison there of Mount and Smith-Rowe, and they could maybe fight it out for the left that position that Granit Xhaka vacated. But now it's sort of like, well, Fabio Vieira's ahead of him as well. He doesn't really play that deeper role that Martin Odegaard plays. If you look at the left wing, then you're pretty stacked. You've got Martinelli, you've got Trossard who can play out there. Nelson signed his new contract.
Yeah,
it just feels like he's being phased out of the side in that regard, and it's hard to see where he would get lots of minutes. And it's not like he's particularly versatile. We haven't seen him play on the right, but we've seen him a lot sort of on that left wing and left 8 role. And those are the two positions we seem pretty well stacked at the moment. So whether he had a chance in training and threw it away, I remember there was some talk about him training in the Granit Xhaka role. Whether Mikel Arteta just thinks he can't rely on him fitness-wise. We've seen that before. I think we're seeing it with Tomiyasu, where Tomiyasu has been injured a fair bit, so we went and signed Timber, and we linked with another defender. Maybe it's just a case we can't have that many players that are injury-prone, and his upside when he's fit isn't as much as, say, a Zinchenko or a Jesus. But Matt's right. It will be really sad to see one of our own sort of leave this late in the window, especially after at the start of the window hearing he's not for sale under any circumstances, and he had a decent enough time with the under-21s at the beginning of the summer. So yeah, it's just he might not have been given a chance that we've seen, but I'm sure in training he's been given plenty of chances.
Sure. Apologies if you can hear dogs barking in the background. You might have to talk over that a bit this afternoon. But Ben, do you not think that Smith-Rowe had maybe enough credit in the bank beforehand from what he's done under Arteta? He's proven that he can score goals, he can make an impact, and those injuries that we saw, holding him back before, he had the surgery to what we thought would resolve that situation. Do you not think that he deserves more than just a chance in training? He does, he should be getting more minutes in this team at the moment, rotating with like a Martinelli or a Havertz or a Vieira.
Yeah, no, I think I'm of the opinion that he should definitely be getting more minutes. But I think towards the end of last season, we saw even when he was fitting on the bench, he wasn't getting minutes. And that was a pretty clear indictment of where Arteta views him, which is below Fabio Vieira, who was in a lot of people's minds struggling last season. His numbers may be great, but when people were watching him, they were saying he's not strong enough or he makes the wrong decision. And a lot of times there was frustration with him. But Smith-Rowe was never the man turned to in those situations. And we've had, in the running, we had Martinelli playing virtually every minute, Saka playing virtually every minute, and Smith-Rowe is a perfectly usable alternative that just wasn't turned to. So there's clearly something, whether it's mentally, whether it's physically, whether it's, whether Mikel Arteta just doesn't trust him fully or doesn't trust him to fully know the position that he's maybe learning. We've seen that before with Pep, where players disappear for 8 months into the wilderness, come back and are suddenly, why on earth weren't they starting before? We saw it with Martinelli as well, I think, a couple of seasons ago.
Yeah. Well, when Smith-Rowe was kind of playing ahead of him, like the situation was almost reversed, wasn't it? Yeah. Matt, do you hope that if he does stay, at least until January, that when the cup competitions come around, the Champions League games come around, do you really hope that Smith-Rowe will get minutes in those competitions? And, if he doesn't, then surely it means like he's off. Like you would worry in that situation, wouldn't you?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's what I was going to mention as well. We're 3 games into the season and there's been a lot of talk about who's starting and who's not starting. But at the end of the day, 11 players can play. And all 3 of the games have been tight winning margins or drawing or losing margins, to where you're not just going to chuck on players for the sake of it. You're chucking on players who affect the state of the game. And when you have a red card against Crystal Palace, you bring on players to defend the lead in that instance away at Selhurst. Or, you play against Fulham, you bring on players who you think can best affect the game. And Arsenal have such a strong bench and such a strong quality team that it's hard to overthink, when players aren't playing, particularly when we haven't even dipped our toes into even a Carabao Cup, for example. We've still got a Carabao Cup, we've got an FA Cup, and we've got a Champions League still to go in terms of, a lot of games to be played. And as you say, if Smith-Rowe isn't playing at that point, what's he? I think 22, 23?
Yeah. I will check
23.
for you.
23, yeah. So like 23, is he just turned 23 or just...
I think so, yeah. I think it was earlier this year.
Okay, just turned 23, fair enough. But yeah, with the nature of how football is, and particularly football...
And 23 in July, Matt, there you go.
Okay, fair. So very recently turned 23. And yeah, I mean, it is like a huge season for him to, break out, stay fit, impress in training, and get those minutes. Because, with all these competitions, I think people underestimate how many minutes a lot of players will get. And as I say, it's easy to jump to conclusions about said player at this point. But we've sold already a few players. There'll be a lot more outgoings too. We have a massive squad, don't get me wrong. But we have 3 other big competitions which we'll be playing. And it'll be a case where you have 2 games a week, whether that's Premier League or Champions League or Carabao Cup. It will happen. So I think it's hard to jump to conclusions about players' playing time now in the first 3. More to the point, Zinchenko's not been fit, so we've done party inverted. Havertz has, of course, been a consistent starter, and then everyone else in terms of your Odegaard, your Martinelli, your Saka,
Do you think,
your
Matt,
Eddie...
sorry to jump in, do you think that the Partey inverted experiment's been because Zinchenko has not been fit, or do you think that in your opinion, that's the way he wants to play?
Yeah, I do think it is because he's not been fit. Because
Okay. So
in
you
a
expect when
nutshell,
Zinchenko comes back into the side, you expect Arsenal to almost go back to how they were playing previously?
yeah, I'd say so. I think
Okay.
it's hard to say when you haven't had players fit, or you have someone like Yuri Timber who is, I guess, the player who can cover for Zinchenko, covering so many other areas too. But he's that perfect template to have instead of Zinchenko. And it means we can manage Zinchenko's minutes without having to play him every game. And he's an essential player. But we've instantly come back to that problem. And obviously, Partey at right back I think it has been the contingency plan, really. And of course,
Okay.
that's, some people aren't always a big fan of that because they want to see him in the midfield with Declan Rice, because that'll be a pretty formidable partnership. But I think the fact of the matter is Arteta's always been a big fan of playing 2 8s and a 6. He's tried it a lot of the time, even dating back to when Partey got injured in the run-in when we were playing Brighton, for example. Sambi Lokonga played as a lone 6. You had Burnley away. We had a 3-man midfield with, I think it was Ødegaard, Smith-Rowe and Partey, I want to say. Or I might be wrong there. But I think it's something along those lines. So I think it's something he's always wanted to make happen. And with, the inverted fullback almost, you allow an extra option in the middle without feeling so short. But I think the area you do lack there is the likes of Ben White overlapping Bukayo Saka and not allowing him to be as isolated as he is. So going a bit off topic there, but I think there are quite a few elements in terms of, the squad, the tactics, as you said, the Partey injury, or part of the Timber injury, and the Zinchenko not being fully fit, Partey being that backup. But I would expect for a game like United, which I'm sure we will talk about soon enough, we will go back to basics. And I think everyone kind of anticipates that.
Big thanks to Raul, who's had a few comments here saying that at his young age, I assume Smith-Rowe here, he needs minutes to develop his game. Not surprised about the rumours. I mean, yeah, ultimately, if Smith-Rowe's not going to play, he needs to move on, because he can't just... He's too good of a player to just sit around on the bench, as much as it would be disappointing and upsetting for a lot of Arsenal fans to see. Smith-Rowe moving on would be the best course of action if he's definitely not going to play. And he also says about Partey playing right back at Forest last year because Zinchenko was injured. And Raul reckons that Partey will go back into the 6th position upon Zinchenko's return. Big thank you for those messages. In the chat box, anyone else listening or watching live, please do feel free to leave a comment on your thoughts on Emile Smith-Rowe. Lads, let's move the conversation on. Champions League draws this week. We're excited, looking forward to it. Ben, who do you want?
Anyone,
anywhere, any place.
Just happy to be there. We haven't been there in so long, and I think the Arsenal admin, we haven't been in so long. The Arsenal admin had to put out a tweet that was like, "This is how the draw works, and this is who we can." It's like, I'm just looking forward to having my Thursday nights back, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely. Well, the Champions League draw takes place on Thursday, and you can watch it live on the newly branded TNT Sports, I believe. And I'm not going to...
We snuck into pot 2, didn't we?
Yeah.
I am. Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
And the final's at Wembley this year. So, Matt, have you got dreams of Arsenal lifting the Champions League just next to where you go to uni?
I've not got dreams. I've got realities. No,
right.
That'll be unbelievable, but not a chance tickets ever happening with that. But no, that's quite far into the future, and a lot of football to be played until then. And yeah, just doing well. Stamping our authority in European competitions would be massive, because it's just not happened for us at all, whether that be Europa League or Champions League. I think it's really important. We changed the fortunes. We've already changed quite a few narratives in the last few years, particularly about us being like a soft club or a business or whatever else. And I think it's time to hopefully change that, but also not, be disrespectful and just think we're entitled to go in and, I don't know, get to the semi-final or anything like that. Because although on paper we're one of the stronger teams in the competition, it's hard to really predict how we're going to do, particularly when it's such a fine margins game where one lapse of concentration or one mistake, and that could be that.
Yeah, for sure. Raul's an Arsenal steward. He said he wants to see a big team at the Emirates, like a Bayern Munich or Barcelona. Let's just hope that if it is Bayern Munich, there's not a repeat of the last time they played a certain club in North London. What was it,
Or us in
7-2?
North London for that matter.
Or or Arsenal in North London. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that too.
Yeah, they seem to have a feast whenever they come to a certain part of London. Yes.
Harry
but
Kane, Bayern Munich, last
Oh yeah.
16, North London. It just that I don't like that. That's one of the things I want to avoid. Just can we
He
have
might
someone
actually
other than
come-
Bayern Munich or Barcelona in the last
Yeah.
16?
Yeah, although if he comes to the Emirates, he might actually join in with the North London Forever before the game. Yeah, no, I'm excited about the Champions League. It's great for Arsenal to be in there, and I will enjoy watching the draw. I just tend to avoid it in previous years because I'm like, proper football's on the Thursday nights. You know what I mean? Like, can't be watching none of that Champions League stuff. Europe's prime competition played on Thursday nights in the Europa League. But either way, I'm looking forward to the draw on Thursday. Tickets will be a nightmare for that as well, Matt. I'm sure we'll enjoy trying to get tickets to those kind of games.
First game will be hell.
Yes, yeah. So Champions League is back at the carpet, and we look forward to it. Next, let's talk about Gabriel because it's he's not been in the team from the start this season so far. He's been on the bench, and Partey's come in a right back role, and everyone's kind of shifted one position over to the left, and there's different. Without getting into it too much, there's different formations in and out of possession, and Gabriel's he has been sacrificed as part of this new formation, and it's not made a lot of people happy. A lot of people have been upset by it. And Ben, I mean, I'll come to you first on this one. Gabriel out of the side. Manchester United this weekend on Sunday. Do you expect it to continue, or do you think that he will come back in?
I think if Zinchenko starts, then Gabriel starts.
Okay.
That's basically what I've come to decide. Because I thought Gabriel would be back in for Palace away. I thought then he'd be back in for Fulham as like a warm-up for United. But I don't think there's anything in those Saudi rumours. I think there's just an empty space where Arsenal fans love to speculate, and the odd people have said, "Oh, well, we could be going to Saudi and all that." I mean, they could have said to him, "We'll pay you 400k or whatever," but I don't think there's a chance in hell that Arsenal sell him unless it's a massive bid. And by massive, we're talking, a sort of bid that allows Arsenal to go and get Mark Gahey out of Crystal Palace and have some change.
Yeah,
and I don't think that's going to happen in the next 3 days. One thing I will say is I think that the speculation will continue because obviously the Saudi transfer window doesn't shut until I think it's the 20th of September. So we've got a bit of time to enjoy everyone being linked to Saudi Arabia. But I think he'll be back in the side when Zinchenko's back in the side. I just think that he's probably the worst player in Arsenal's back four in the build-up. And with Partey already there, it's like you've got to find a balance, and we might not be getting it right, but this is one way of trying to find the balance. With Zinchenko coming in, who's obviously much better on the ball, we can probably bring Gabriel back in, who I think most would agree is our best defender. Like if he's the most physical and the strongest. I mean, Saliba's pretty good too, as we all know. But in terms of on that left side, I think Gabriel is pretty unrivaled when it comes to actually defending. It's just the ball playing aspect of his game has not been as strong as the rest of the side in the last season.
Sure. I mean, Matt, you said the other day, I'm not going to say where, but you said that, hypothetically, if Arsenal got offered 200 million for Gabriel, would you sell him? I mean, I'd walk into Saudi Arabia myself if someone came in with 200 million pounds. No one's ever making a bid of that much or an offer of that much. But
that's what's hypothetical.
Yeah, but come on, let's at least try and be realistic here. But Matt, Gabriel, does it worry you that he's not featured so far, or are you just kind of pretty, content with the fact that when Zinchenko comes back in, that hopefully Gabriel will also come back in?
It goes back to what I said earlier, to be honest, about us being 3 games into the season and not jumping to conclusion about every single small thing we see. And at the end of the day, more depth means less of your favourite players start every week. But no, I think as Ben said with Zinchenko, that seems to kind of be it. That if Zinchenko's in the team, Gabriel's in the team. Personally, I still think Gabriel should be starting either way. Particularly, I get why the rumours are stirring, particularly when you had Urian Timber play against Forest, which fair enough, it was brilliant in pre-season and warranted starting first week. And then second game, you had Tomiyasu starting against Crystal Palace as a left back, which we know Arteta has deployed at times, most notably against Liverpool. He did against Leeds as well last season, I think. And against Fulham, he played Jakub Kiwior. So I get why speculation happens, and I get why people are worried. And it seems like all three players are ahead of him. But I think in reality, it is a thing where if Zinchenko comes back into the team and Gabriel's still not, then I will start to get concerned and be very confused. But I don't think you just suddenly throw away everything you have for the player of that quality. What he offers in both boxes, his aerial threat, his goal scoring side, as I said, with the other box. His passing's improved a lot. Just in general, he's a top player. And as I say, 3 games in, I wouldn't overthink it too much. If Zinchenko comes in and Gabriel comes in or doesn't come in, then yeah. And I think, as I say, for me, either way, on a game like Forest, he should be starting anyhow. But Arteta's the manager, not me. And yeah, as
Thank goodness.
No,
sorry,
really
mate.
needed?
Sorry. Carry on, mate. I'd love to see Matt. You on the touchline in a little 3-piece suit. It would be a sight to behold. I'd love to see it. Sorry. Carry on, mate. Sorry.
I respect it. I'm not sure I'll be wearing a suit. It'd probably be more of an Arteta fit, I reckon. No,
okay.
Bit of a balance, I reckon.
Bit of a balance.
But anyway,
quarter zip and some tailored trousers, and then like some Alexander McQueen shoes, something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that.
If Arsenal do want a coach, then I'm sure they can contact me. But shameless, but yeah. Anyways, just lost my train of thought. But yeah, back to Gabriel. Yeah, it's just a matter of waiting for Zinchenko to come start again, which you'd very much suspect it will be against Man United, and Gabriel should follow suit.
Sure. Ben, what's your take on the Kai Havertz situation? I'm just going to throw it at you because it's probably one of the most topical areas of conversation so far. What's your take on Kai Havertz? And Arteta obviously really likes him, and he's been playing him in a midfield role, and he's been getting into some really good positions. And all the rival fans are really enjoying already jumping on this train and really slandering every little thing he doesn't do that's perfect. But what's your take on Kai Havertz, and is the message patience when it comes down to him?
Yeah, I think but yeah, I think you've pretty much hit that bang on the head. I think patience is the key thing. I think it will be it's always difficult to drop points early in the season, and the expectations of Arsenal have not been this high for a long time. So when you're fighting against a team like Manchester City, who we saw, they conceded late against Sheffield United, went up the other end and scored immediately. Every point feels like a missed opportunity, or every point dropped rather. So I think that Kai Havertz is an easy scapegoat because we've done a lot of other things to include him potentially. Like we don't know necessarily if Thomas Partey would be inverting, for instance, if Kai Havertz wasn't there. You can speculate that he might not be or he might be, but a lot of people will say, well, Thomas Partey's playing out of position, so he can shoehorn Kai Havertz into the team. And it's obviously having a knock-on effect on other players. I just think that he needs time. I think he had 2 pretty all right games, or decent games for the first 2. He had a pretty poor game against Fulham, but I wouldn't be something that I was jumping on his back from. I just think that Arsenal fans have seen him in the Premier League for 2 seasons at Chelsea. They've seen what he can and can't do as a striker, and it's sort of projected onto the Kai Havertz that we signed. And there are definitely drawbacks to his game, and there are things he can work on. But I think that a lot of the raw materials are there. And I think I think someone said to me, if we'd signed Bayer Leverkusen Kai Havertz 2 seasons ago, everyone and he'd have these start opening 3 games, the narrative would be very different. But because we signed Chelsea Kai Havertz instead, after a difficult couple of seasons for that club and the player, it's it's a completely different idea. And he does a lot. I think a lot of what he does really well isn't necessarily on the ball, but in terms of winning the ball back and pressing really well. And people will say you don't pay 65 million for that. Of course you don't. You pay 65 million for winning your games essentially. And I think that will come with time. It's just confidence and patience and understanding his new role. And I think he'll improve. That being said, I think for United, it might be a case where we take him out of the firing line, maybe go to a more natural midfielder, sort of Partey, Erdegaard, and Rice, and then bring back Zinchenko and have Ben White back at right back and Gabriel back in, maybe back towards the sort of side that we had when Xhaka was here. I don't think that would necessarily be a reflection on Havertz. It would just more be a sort of reflection on the points coming ahead of the ideals, if that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah. No, 100%. And MM here reckons that Havertz is suffering from low confidence, and you could say that about a lot of Chelsea's squad at the moment as well. If you forget the fact they just beat a very poor Luton Town side, that game against West Ham, they looked incredibly poor. And for Chelsea as well, is it not a bit hypocritical to be like, our squad needs time to mould and build under Pochettino? But Havertz rubbish the first time you see him, a little bit hypocritical in my opinion. But even still, Kai Havertz just needs a bit of time to really gel and Arsenal to find his correct position. And I think a fair point to judge him is by the end of the season, when he's had a full campaign under his belt, time to get to know his teammates, where he plays best, and then you can, cast an element of judgment on how the signing's been so far. Excuse me, Matt, let's talk about Sunday, because as it stands, we're not going, but we will keep refreshing the ticket exchange and we will keep hoping that something pops up and that one of the many bots does not get it before us. But Arsenal versus Manchester United, hopefully we will be there. Ben, you planning on going? You got tickets already or not?
Not for me, sadly. I think I'm 0-4 in the ballot at the moment, or 0-5. So
I've got nothing in the ballot either.
You could get a meal deal and a bit more for that. Unbelievable.
Do they actually take your £1 and not give it back?
No, they give it back, I think.
They give it back. Okay.
Okay.
I think
Matt was under the impression that they take your £1 and don't give it back to you.
I just wanted to give meal deal some props, to be fair. So
I think it's a pre-authorization thing, so they just sort of take £1 to check that your account works.
Matt was convinced they were stealing from him just for the privilege of entering a ballot.
Not sure I was, but okay.
Okay, mate. But Arsenal, Manchester United. Ben, you love a Manchester United game at home, don't you? You've been to a few over the years. I remember the one year I didn't go was when Arsenal won 3-1, and when Cristiano Ronaldo came back, you went to that game, didn't you?
Yeah, the Nuno Tavares handball game.
That was
Nuno Tavares goal game.
Yeah, the goal, the handball, and the Xhaka thunderbolt.
That was an absolute incredible goal. But yes, last season, I remember being there. Matt, you were there too, weren't you, when Raf got his famous picture and
2 in a row, yeah.
Yeah, incredible night at the Emirates with Eddie Nketiah scoring in the last minute to win Arsenal the game. That was one of the great Arsenal Man United clashes, I remember. And, it was a privilege to be there. And I was working on the night. And I just remember it being almost like, because I was in the press box and I couldn't, celebrate when Eddie Nketiah puts it in the back of the net in like the 89th minute or something, and the whole stadium starts shaking. I just have to sit there like it was
nothing, no goal, doesn't matter.
Self-control at its highest. But Matt, what are you hoping for? It's going to be, I think, regardless, an incredible atmosphere. But Arsenal, Man United, what are your hopes, and what do you want to see from Arsenal going into this game?
I want to see really more of the same from last year, to be honest. I think the season before that wasn't the reference point. Although when those last two probably won't go this one. but that game I came out thinking we were quite lucky to win. Game last year, I was thinking, how has this one ended 3-2? We sustained completely. We created so many chances. We overran them. We conceded a superb goal in the first one and a poor second, but it is what it is. It's
Absolute
Arsenal.
wonder strike from Rashford, wasn't it? Yeah.
Some player. But yeah, seems like he'll be back off the left as well, which will be not troublesome per se, but that's where he's best, definitely. And he's a top player against anyone. So that's obviously the main guy to look out for. Obviously, you've got Bruno Fernandes. I think the game will come a bit too soon for Rasmus Højlund. I'm not sure I'm just suddenly going on to United team news, but going on to the actual
No Mason
question
Mount
you
as
asked
well, there
me,
is there? No Mason
No.
Mount. He's injured too.
or
yeah.
Luke Shaw.
No left back.
Yeah, interesting. Saka's going to be rubbing his fingers.
It'll be
together.
either whoever they sign on
Dalot
loan / cheaply, or Diogo Dalot.
Diogo Dalot, yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I just want to see us sustain pressure. I want to see us create a lot. I want to keep seeing improvement after game, because although people say whatever they want about the start to the season, I thought Forest, we were decent, not amazing, but decent. And another day it could have been 4-0, easy. Against Palace, I thought we were very good until the red card, and then it kind of went a bit capitulated a bit, which we don't really speak about the Palace game, I don't think. But yeah, we won. That's all that matters at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And then the Fulham game, I thought we played really well from about 30th to the 80th minute, which is a huge chunk of the game. And for us to be sustaining pressure, creating a lot of chances, and once again should have scored a lot more. So if I see us sustain most of the game, not give away a stupid goal, not concede early, and those are kind of the two main factors at this point, really. If that's the way we've been conceding in the at the Emirates in the last however many games, even dating back to games like Crystal Palace, Leeds, Chelsea, Southampton. There's just so many. Well, Southampton we drew, but you get the point of the goals we've been conceding.
Don't talk about that cursed Southampton game. That was one of the most horrendous nights. Sorry, carry on, Matt. Yeah.
Not the one. But yeah, just not concede any sloppy, loss of concentration type goals. Not give it easy. If United were to win the game or anything like that, make them properly work for it. That should go for any team. That's not me saying, United are going to win. But I'm confident for the game. I think, as I say, we've been improving week in, week out. And I think we will go back to somewhat basics, if you will, with Partey and Rice in the middle, with Martin Odegaard, Eddie Nketiah rightfully keeping his place up front, who's been superb. And then, yeah, pretty much, I'm feeling pretty good about the game. But at the same time, with the nature of how, as you say, pressure's really high and expectations have never been higher in recent times, you start drawing or losing to United, and questions or panic starts to arise with an international break on the horizon too. So tough one to say, but I'm confident for it.
Nicely teed up, Matt. Nicely teed up. Ben, would you be more confident about this if it was an away game? Because Arsenal seem to be playing, much more securely and defensively much more sound away from home rather than at home at the moment. Or do you think, just big game tax, no matter what happens, Arsenal's going to turn up?
I think away from home, it depends if FK was going, because he's been every year and has got a terrible record against Man United.
Yeah.
So sorry to throw you under the bus there, FK, if you're listening. But I think away from home, United could play a bit more on the crowd and a bit more on their ability to play on transitions. I think at home, there's a certain expectation that Arsenal fans will have. But I also think we can make it an excellent atmosphere if we, if it returns to what it was last season. It's been allegedly it's been a bit subdued this season, and there's various theories for why. But I think as long as we don't concede early, it's a Sunday 4:30 game, so there should be plenty of time to be in the boozers beforehand.
Oh yes.
Get an atmosphere going. Like, there is no real reason why we shouldn't be able to make that stadium rocking on Sunday, and use that to our advantage. Don't concede early. Just sort of feel your way into the game. Hopefully we have Gabriel back, because, as I say, I think he's pretty important to this side, and not seeing him there is a surprise. But hopefully, we can have Gabriel back. We can have Zinchenko back. Jesus off the bench. It should be a good day. And there are a lot of expectations to win this game as well, I think, especially with the way that Manchester United come in. It looks like they can't string two passes together. So, there's a lot of expectations, and I just hope this is the game. I saw earlier this week that it was like the anniversary of the 8-2 at Old Trafford, and I just hope this is the game we can just give it back and then some.
That would be incredible. Yeah. I mean, Man United's midfield's been a bit questionable, hasn't it, so far, Ben? I mean, you saw the way Wolves played against them at Old Trafford, and without raising the blood pressure too much and bringing up that VAR decision, there was some, their midfield's been getting overrun quite a lot, I think, in some of their games, and they're still looking to try and find that balance and bring in. I think, is it Amrabat they're looking to bring in?
Is he a real person? Sorry,
I don't even know. I just know the name. I don't even know. I don't know who the player is. I've just heard the name branded around many times because
Sofian Amrabat has been linked with them all summer.
He's the player that apparently magically, just like that, fixes them, which seems to be.
And he's worth like 20 million euros apparently, yet no one's gone for him. Is he real? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Savage. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, they and Liverpool are both linked with Gravenberch as well from Bayern Munich. So there was an interesting. There's a story about swapping Scott McTominay for Ryan Gravenberch, which made me laugh at the idea of Kimmich and Scott McTominay behind Harry Kane at Bayern. But yeah, United are a bit of a mess. Sounds like they don't have much wiggle room in the transfer market. So yeah, they've got injuries left, right, and centre, and you can play through the middle of them pretty easily at the moment. So it should be a game that sort of plays into our hands. But we said that before and been bitten on the arse. So who knows?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully we can get a ticket somehow for the game. Ben, thank you so much for joining us this lunchtime. I'm hoping, great to have you here. I'm hoping, Matt, that we might be able to, I haven't told you this yet, but I'm hoping we can do another stream maybe on Thursday. So a bit more of a preview towards the Man United game, maybe see who else is around that we can get on the channel. But thank you so much to everyone that's watching live, that has been here throughout this live stream. Please do subscribe. We do really appreciate any subscriptions. It's completely free, and you get Matt's beautiful face to look at in every single episode. So I don't know. I don't know why you wouldn't do it. And I've subscribed on about 3 different accounts so far just for that incredible bonus. So thank you so much, Matt, for being here, Ben for being here. Cheers for watching. Please like the video, turn on the notification so you know whenever we upload or go live so you don't miss it. And hopefully we will see you Thursday. Any final words, Matt, before we go out?
Not really, no. Just have a fantastic rest of your days, and hopefully Arsenal can win on Sunday. Obviously, we'll do another one before that, but yeah.
Incredible. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Please like and subscribe. Ben, Matt, thank you. Take care, and we will see you very soon.